preachers are so afraid that somehow preaching too much grace, as if that's possible, will lead to licentiousness, loose living. But, he says, I can testify that the opposite is actually true. When all we get is a try harder and do more for God message, it leads to the realization that I can't do it, so I quit trying. So this fear that grace in some way, shape, or form is going to make us worse is a farce. The opposite is actually true. And I've said this for years now. I have never met one person whose heart has been so gripped and so grasped by God's love and forgiveness and grace toward them that they then determine that they're going to go out and live for themselves. Never. The more I hear about what God has done for me and how it is finished, the more I want to follow him. The more I want to love God and love my neighbor. It doesn't make me want to sin more. It actually makes me want to sin less. So this fear that grace gets in the way of good behavior is a farce. It's not even, you can't even prove it. See, the ironic thing about legalism, which is nothing more, nothing less than a fixation on rules. The ironic thing about legalism is that it not only doesn't make people work harder, it makes them give up. So we think we are, if we just give them the law and we tell them what to do and we instruct them, and we give them all of these things that they have to accomplish, that will get them to fly straight. In the end, it doesn't. It makes people give up. I've had a lot of friends over the years walk away from God because their understanding of God, based on what they were taught, is that there is a long laundry list of things you need to do in order to ensure that God will like you. And they come to the sobering realization that they can't do these things, and so they walk away altogether. Legalism doesn't make people better, it makes them worse. A fixation on the rules and painting a picture of God that is primarily concerned about you keeping the rules makes people give up. It doesn't soften their heart and make them want to follow God. See, the only way that licentious people are changed is when they get a taste of God's radical, unconditional love for them, no matter what. No matter what. It's the love of God that melts our hearts, molds our hearts, and makes us want to follow him. We tend to think that God stands at some antiseptic distance from our sin and our failure and waits for us to clean up our act before we can approach him. But that's not who he is. If the arrival of Jesus 2,000 years ago tells us anything, it tells us that God meets us in our sin, in our failure. He curls up on the bathroom floor with us and reminds us that he will never leave us, never forsake us, that there's nothing we can do or fail to do that will ever get him to walk away, reject us, unjustify us. It's the unconditionality of God's love. It's his grace. It's his mercy, which is new every morning. It's his forgiveness, which is final and full for us, that over time softens our heart and woos us and makes us want to go with him. The unconditional love from God doesn't make us want to leave him and sin more. It melts our hearts and makes us want to go with him, follow him, keep him close. So Paul here says, the law can't do any of that stuff. Keeping the rules, being strict in your adherence of the rituals and the law, it can't do that stuff. Okay, that may modify your behavior temporarily, but if behavior modification was what God was after, he would have praised the Pharisees. He didn't. He called them whitewashed tombs. You are spick and span on the outside. Your behavior is on point. but you are dead on the inside. He said, with your lips you worship me, but your hearts are far from me. Hearts. And the heart is always what God is after. And it's his mercy and his grace toward us that softens it, melts it,